Good evening. My name is Hope Carter, and I'm the Vice President for Institutional Advancement here at Millsaps. And it is my privilege to welcome you to this 2019 Founders Day dinner, celebrating the 129th year of Millsaps College. I've just begun my third year at Millsaps, and this evening has become one of my most favorite nights because it is a time that we celebrate your individual and collective generosity. Your contributions of time, talent, and resources create the opportunities and provide the tools that students and faculty utilize to stretch themselves and produce world-class citizen scholars. In recognizing groups of individuals here this evening, I begin with the Founders Society, which is composed of 45 donors who have given $1 million or more to the college. Their vision, their financial support, and their names are forever linked to our founders' vision of providing scholastic opportunities to any qualified student who could succeed at Millsaps, and linked to all that Millsaps stands for today. I know we have some Founders Society members with us tonight, and I'd like to ask you to stand or raise your hand to be recognized. Thank you for your extraordinary support of the college. The Heritage Society is comprised of donors who have made a planned gift to the college. Much of our endowment has come from the generosity of individuals who have made planned gifts which benefit the college and its students far beyond the year in which they are given. If you are a member of the Heritage Society, please raise your hand so we can recognize you for the legacy you have created. We give a special welcome to individuals who have established endowed funds to Millsaps to support student scholarships, academic programs, and faculty, and to individuals acting as representatives for endowed funds. Your gifts provide critical support year after year in all that they do. If you have established an endowed fund or are representing an endowed fund this evening, please raise your hand and be recognized. We also have members of the Board of Trustees with us tonight. If you are a current or former Millsaps trustee, please raise your hand so we can recognize you and thank you for your leadership of the college. Finally, we want to recognize the members of our Board of Visitors. This advisory group is meeting tomorrow, and they provide feedback and input to the college on important issues. Raise your hand if you are a Board of Visitors member. We now come to our invocation. Once we've blessed the food, you will have time to visit with old acquaintances and new friends at your tables. Afterwards, we will begin our program. At this time, I call upon the Reverend Paige Swain Presley, who is the Executive Director of the Center for Ministry at Millsaps, to give our invocation.
Let us pray. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, in gratitude we come to you for the founding of Millsaps College and all who made it possible, for its history of excellence and critical thought, for its heritage of vital piety and social holiness, for the generosity of those who have empowered the education of generations. For all of this and more, we give you thanks. May your vision for our future guide us now as in the past. May our commitments to faith and justice, to exploration and transformation, reshape not only our students but ourselves, not simply our college, but our communities and our world. May we remain ever open to new ideas and callings, as the people called Methodist were open to your calling in the founding of this institution. May this meal strengthen and inspire us toward hope for the future, toward gratitude for the past, and toward the joy of celebration and fellowship this night. In the name of God, who created us, who sustains us, and who calls us ever forward. Amen.
Good evening. Please continue with your meal and dessert, but I'd like to go ahead and begin our program. I'm Rob Pearigen. It's my privilege to serve as president of Millsaps College. We're gathered tonight to celebrate and give thanks for the generosity of the founders and benefactors of Millsaps. We're deeply grateful for the gifts, talent, the time, the resources that each of you in this room contribute to help shape the future of our college. We also recognize that everyone here is part of a legacy of support, a legacy that extends back many generations, even to a time before the college was actually founded. So tonight, on this Founders Day, we celebrate our relationship with the college's longest standing benefactor, that's the Methodist Church. Here's to the Methodist Church. So Millsaps is 129 years old, but our relationship with the Methodist Church in Mississippi is far older. 5 decades before Millsaps' founding, in August of 1839, leaders of the Mississippi Conference of the Methodist Episcopal Church South committed to raising funds to establish a college as near to the center of the conference as possible. Its name would be Centenary College, commemorating the centennial year of John Wesley's conversion. The college was chartered 4 years later in 1843 and located near Brandon Springs in Rankin County. Sadly, Centenary was not a successful venture at that location, and the college was eventually moved outside of the Mississippi Conference to Jackson, Louisiana, and then later to Shreveport, where Centenary exists today. So decades later, the church tried again. In December 1888, both conferences of the Mississippi Methodism voted to endorse a Christian college for young men, and pretty soon, young women. The conferences appointed representatives, including Reuben Webster Millsaps, to create plans for the new institution. Major Millsaps pledged $50,000 to endow the institution, provided that Mississippi Methodists would commit the same amount. So once the proposal was approved, Bishop Charles Betts Galloway was asked to conduct a campaign for financial support. Bishop Galloway personally toured the state, visiting individuals and churches alike, eventually raising the required amount. So following these efforts, Millsaps College was chartered in 1890, and the college opened its doors to students in September of 1892. At the college's dedication, Bishop Galloway remarked, "Upon few institutions ever established in any land or any time have there been extended more careful thought, more spiritual solicitude, more self-denying toil than the one we upon this day dedicate to God and humanity." Millsaps came to exist because Mississippi Methodists generously committed their energies and their resources to an idea. Through 129 years, Mississippi Methodist clergy and lay alike have continued to support Millsaps in their finances, with students, with their personal service, and even teaching on our campuses. The relationship between Millsaps and the United Methodist Church has not been simple nor easy, but as a relationship worth renewing and strengthening, it has been reaffirmed time and time again, including as in our one of the major goals in our current strategic plan, titled Across the Street and Around the Globe, Partnerships and Influence at Millsaps College. So over the next few minutes, we'll hear the voices of several people who have experienced the relationship between Millsaps and the church across the decades. The first voices will come to you in a short video, and then we'll hear from the Reverend Dr. Joey Shelton, chaplain and director of church relations at Millsaps. Hope you will join me in listening with your head and heart to these reflections on our past and our bright and promising future. So thank you.
The college's support of myself and other preministerial students was obvious and very meaningful. You came here with an aim to be into ministry, and they would have given you a scholarship. We did not pay if we had the license to preach. If we had the approval of our church, our congregation, then we were not charged tuition. And that was a big help to a lot of us.
In December 1888, both conferences of Mississippi Methodism voted to endorse a Christian college for young men. Each conference appointed 6 men, including Major Millsaps, to a commission to begin formulating the plans. Major Millsaps proposed to give $50,000 to endow the institution, provided that the Methodists of Mississippi would give an equal sum. The proposition was approved enthusiastically, and Bishop Charles Betts Galloway was asked to conduct a campaign for the fund. Bishop Galloway took up the cause with serious purpose, personally touring the state to raise support from Methodists.
My experience at Millsaps as a student provided a wonderful foundation in preparation for ministry. Perhaps not in the traditional way of preministerial classes, but the firm foundation I received in the liberal arts education, the writing, critical thinking, communications, all prepared me for my coursework in seminary, but also for my ministry professionally.
I don't remember if it was T.W. Lewis or Lee Rife or who said it back in the early 80s when they said, informed study of the Bible is life-giving.
The overall decline of students at Millsaps preparing for preministerial service or church work, I think mirrors a decline across the nation. Fewer young adults and students are interested in professional careers in ministry. I don't think they're any less spiritual or any less religious. I think people grow up and they don't see themselves in a pulpit. They don't see themselves in robes. They don't see themselves in those traditional models of ministry. And so traditional routes to ministry, I think, are suffering because of that.
The Center for Ministry gives lay folk an opportunity to get some basic theological education without having to enroll in college. The Center for Ministry gives our local pastors and part-time local pastors in the United Methodist Church a convenient way to get their continuing education. And the Center for Ministry creates opportunities that are easier for those folks.
My vision of a relationship between Millsaps and the church is one of mutual encouragement and one of mutual challenge. I think there have been times in which our relationship has been one of benign neglect. The college was founded by the church over 100 years ago, and whether or not everyone knows it today, I think higher education in church-related colleges has a vital role in the future of the church. The future of the church is, like it is in every generation, always in question. What will the next generation of faithful Christians called Methodists look like? We need places like Millsaps that helps form leaders, clergy, lay, faith and non-faith leaders. And so it's hard for me to envision a church without Millsaps. And it's hard for me to envision Millsaps without a church. So my hope is that we will continue to walk together into a future of God's love, hope, and light.
Before I begin my remarks, I would like to introduce several individuals who are here tonight, and they are an incredible staff that does work that is often unrecognized and unseen, but bears tremendous fruit. You heard earlier from Paige Swain Presley as she gave our invocation. Reverend Swain Presley is a Candler School of Theology graduate. She's the executive director of the Center for Ministry. She is the associate chaplain of the college, and she is also pastoring in our Wesley connection. So Paige, would you stand and let us show appreciation for what you do and who you are. I would like to also introduce the Reverend Elizabeth Queen, a graduate of Duke Divinity School. And Elizabeth is a native of Jackson. Did I say Queen? I meant Henry, if I did that. Reverend Elizabeth Henry. And Elizabeth is the program director of our Thriving in Ministry grant. She is facilitating that for us, for clergy women. She is also working with our Wesley connection, and it is a great joy to have someone of her immense talent to be on our staff. So Elizabeth, if you would stand so that we can show our appreciation. We also have Katie Sori, who I call a triple threat. Katie is a graduate of Duke Divinity School. She works for the Office of Student Life. She works for the Office of the Chaplain, and she works for the Center for Ministry. So Katie is not with us tonight because of my miscommunication with her, and so we need an absentia to give her a round of applause. The father of the Methodist movement, John Wesley, was at the end of his life. People had visited him knowing his perishable time was soon to end, and the imperishable phase of his journey was near. On that last day, as uncertainty for the future of the Methodist movement loomed, Wesley made a short yet bold statement. The best of all is, God is with us. Wesley's faith journey and the result of his work became a movement because it convicted people to believe and to participate in what Jesus said in John's Gospel. My Father is still working, and I also am working. Jesus goes on to say that the Holy Spirit will teach us everything. That is to say, will teach us how to love God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love our neighbor as we love our very selves. I'd like to also introduce tonight a student who is in my Wesleyan movement class. Her name is Leslie Norris. Leslie comes to us from Birmingham, Alabama. She is a player on our softball team, and I do have a crystal ball that has told me that her next stop after Millsaps will be Duke Divinity School. And Leslie, if you would stand so that we can show appreciation for what a pre-ministerial student looks like at Millsaps College. In class, we summarize the Wesleyan movement as intentionally living the intersection. Living the intersection of personal and social holiness by the grace of God's undergirding love. The Millsaps women's basketball team is the #1 seed in our conference tournament. They will play at 1 o'clock tomorrow in the Hangar Dome. Be there or be square. Our team is #1 because their 21-4 record made them the regular season SAA champions. Their season really began back in August when they and the men's basketball team went on a combination international basketball and international mission trip. They played 2 games each against Costa Rican opponents and joined with the Methodist-related Rice and Beans Ministry of Costa Rica, which, as a side note, was founded by a Mississippi-born United Methodist. Their experience among Nicaraguan refugees was transformative. Our students, coaches, and staff, men and women of various ethnicities, a spectrum of backgrounds, of diverse faith journeys, were moved into a deeper place of knowing themselves, knowing God, knowing their neighbor, knowing each other with a deeper sense of grace and love. Their time together mirrored the first Methodist societies in England, formed nearly 300 years ago. People of varied faith backgrounds coming together to be moved into a deeper place of knowing themselves, knowing God, knowing their neighbor, knowing each other, of living the intersection. I'd like to stop for a moment, and this is a dangerous thing to do when we're in a room with people who have given so much of their time and financial resources to this college. But I would like to thank David Mcnair, whose generosity and bold vision makes it possible for 1/3 of the cost of international Christian mission trips to be covered for every Millsaps participant, students, staff, and faculty. Please stand, Mr. Mcnair, so we can express our appreciation. The women's basketball team cut down the nets after the win that sealed the regular season championship. 2 of the seniors came to my office yesterday, and they gave me a piece of the net. This 3-inch strand of cord is a symbol for me of the unifying, transformational power of God's Spirit at work in and among those who are bold to recognize and receive and reciprocate. Mr. Mcnair, your financial gift is priceless. Oh, and did I mention that our men's team won more games this year than they have in nearly a decade? The Major Methodist Movement is an initiative that expands the pattern set in Costa Rica and extends it on campus, across the street, and around the globe. We are embarking upon this initiative in an exciting and an uncertain time, but our college is no stranger to the uncertainties that accompany any shift in movement. Many theologians agree that we are in the beginning stages of a 500-year paradigm shift in the Christian faith. I believe we are in the ending stages of the 54-year paradigm shift in higher education that began in 1965 when Congress enacted the Higher Education Act, regulating accreditation throughout the nation. There is no doubt that we are also at the climax of a 50-year paradigm shift in the United Methodist Church regarding scriptural interpretation and how we will or will not continue to live together as a connectional church. These paradigm shifts magnify the nature of our lives as that of movement. And the major Methodist movement seeks to join God on the journey by converging the gifts of time, talent, and treasure that is already in our midst and building upon it in a way that is unique and unparalleled in the entire country. We seek to be at the forefront of the shifts, all the while holding to our core of loving God and loving our neighbors as we love ourselves, of living the intersection. Consider, Millsaps College has 3 facilities and a 4,500-acre reserve in Yucatan, Mexico. We have the previously mentioned Mcnair Fund for International Christian Missions. We have the L School of Management. We have a track record of partnership with our neighboring Midtown community. We are soon to have a restored, revamped, recreated, reimagined Selby and Richard McRae Christian Center with state-of-the-art classrooms and a centralized sacred space that will accommodate campus worship opportunities like never before in the history of the college. Thank you, those who have contributed to that effort and for the tireless energy and the vision that President Pearigen cast for us in this worthy project. For it is a place where faith and reason reside under the same roof. We have the Center for Ministry at Millsaps College, the biggest secret on campus, in existence since 1998, that develops Christian leaders through lifelong learning. The center manages continuing education credits for all Mississippi United Methodist pastors, coordinates continuing education events, and facilitates the annual Clergy Leadership Conference for Mississippi Methodist pastors. Through the Center for Ministry, we have the Journey Partners program that trains persons for spiritual direction. We have the most outstanding course of study extension campus in the Emory University Candler School of Theology's course of study system. We have the Mississippi United Methodist License to Preach School. Among the college, the Center for Ministry, and the United Methodist Church, we have students yearning for spiritual direction. We have undergraduate, second career, and bivocational students yearning to be trained in nonprofit leadership and ministerial entrepreneurship. The way we do church now is not the way we will do church in the future. We have students who yearn to get a passport for the first time and travel outside of the United States so that they might better know God, themselves, their neighbor, and to live the intersection from a global perspective. We have teenagers who yearn to learn the skills to think theologically and integrate their faith in daily activities. We have under-resourced rural churches throughout Mississippi whose pastors are part-time servants of God, or they are traveling among multiple communities without sufficient time to train worship planning teams, and whose people are eager for such. And as we inventory what we have, we now ask, what if? What if our major Methodist initiative converged faith, reason, and work? What if we had a premier summer youth academy for teenagers to engage theological formation and its convergence with real life? What if we had a rural church worship resource training center? What if we utilized our Yucatan campuses for Mcnair-funded missions, for major experience opportunities of integrative, interdisciplinary learning that includes a faith component, such as a theology of ecology, the evangelism methodologies of the Mayans? Ask that to George Bay. The convergence of classical Greek with biblical Greek and modern relevant interpretations for the people of Mexico and the United States. Or how do persons of faith respond to U.S. and Mexican business practices, and how might those practices contribute to illegal immigration? What if we were able to leverage the best practices of the ELS School alongside the best practices of the Center for Ministry to better serve both our for-profit and not-for-profit leaders? These conversations have started. Who knows where they will lead? Over the past 20 months, the staff of the Millsaps Office of the Chaplain and Center for Ministry have preached, taught, or facilitated at 98 Methodist venues throughout Mississippi. This has produced a cumulative effect of over 8,000 points of contact. The Center for Ministry serves over 800 pastors and laypersons per year from 5 states, and we have only scratched the surface of our collective potential. The Major Methodist Initiative is a full-court press with the goal of expanding our ability to empower people to live the intersection. The urgency to love God, self, and neighbor is upon us as much as ever in the midst of paradigm shifts in our ever-changing world. God has entrusted much to Millsaps. What an opportunity. May we live the intersection of personal and social holiness as we embrace the love of God, the grace to love ourselves, and the gratitude to love our neighbors. From Midtown to Belhaven, from Costa Rica to Yucatan, from Jackson to Jakarta. And the best of all is, God is with us. Join the movement with your prayers, your presence, your gifts, your service, and your witness. Amen.
Amen.
It's hard to follow that, but what a wonderful vision and opportunity for the future. And he's got us hopping in institutional advancement with these big ideas. So thank you, Joey. Appreciate that. And thank you all for being here tonight. I hope you've enjoyed visiting with new friends and old at your tables. And I thank you for all that you've done for the college and all that you continue to do. Your generosity is so important to what we're able to do on a daily basis, and we couldn't do what we do without you. The oldest performing arts organization on campus is the Millsap Singers, and I think there are a few former Millsap Singers sitting among us. I see Bob, and there's probably a lot of others as well. And the Chamber Singers are some of our most talented and best Millsaps ambassadors that perform in the United Methodist congregations throughout the state. And we have a group of singers here with us tonight, and they will provide the benediction and lead us all in the Millsaps alma mater. So I'm going to turn it over to the Chamber Singers.
Lord please stand